It's alive. The power play is alive. Ha ha ha. We'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Ha 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 ha. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade. It is the day before Halloween, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, as I mentioned, the power play is alive. Thank goodness. There's a slight caveat to that. I'll explain it right now. The Ducks had a great game against the New York Islanders. They scored 2 power play goals. I'm going to give a caveat first before I go into the positive. The Ducks went into this game losing their first 2 games on the road trip. They went into Long Island against a New York team that is, to put it mildly, their PK is bad. Their PK is putrid. As of right now, the New York Islanders have the second worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League. Before the game, they were at about a 63.5% clip. They are now at a 62.5% clip. Oh boy, the Islanders' penalty killing is bad. Second worst in the league. Second worst only to the Edmonton Oilers, who boast a 62.1% penalty kill. So I'm just going to say this right now. The Ducks power play did look good, but the Islanders' terrible penalty kill made the Ducks power play look good. But at least the Ducks did take advantage of a poor penalty kill. Look, I would rather the Ducks score a couple of goals against a bad penalty kill. I mean, it's way better than doing nothing against one of the worst PKs in the league. This is something the Ducks did the previous 2 to 3 to 4 years. The Ducks would go into games, they'd go into barns against let's put it this way, against a crappy penalty kill. This would happen way too often, and they would wind up getting no shots on goal. They'd get very little offensive zone time. They would get nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, this is why I'm encouraged, and this is why I tweeted out like little signs. There are little signs that the power play is improving. So let's go through the first 2 power plays of the game. In fact, the Ducks only had 3 power plays this entire game. All 3 of them had good signs. So I'm actually going to go power play by power play. The first one in period 1. Brock McGinn draws a penalty against Pierre Engvall with about 7.5 minutes left. Okay, so the Ducks go on the power play. Their first unit does a terrific job of moving the puck around and actually making decent enough cross-ice passes. And even if there was a shot blocked or there was a shot that was missed, there would typically be a Ducks player that would hustle after the puck, or if the puck is about to exit the zone, someone that was quarterbacking the power play at the time would make the effort to keep the puck in the zone. So that happened on the first minute. And going into the second minute of power play time, it was even better. The Ducks got the Islanders' penalty kill tired. And I even remarked this to myself, like, man, that PK is getting tired. I thought it, I said it aloud, and what do you think would happen on that power play? Ducks would cash in. The entirety, and I'm actually not kidding when I say this because I actually had to rewind and go back and check this on Victory Plus. For the entirety of the minute and 40 seconds on that first power play, the puck never left the offensive zone. It never did. Even if there was a stoppage, it would still be in the offensive zone for the Ducks. And that's still a long time to be on your heels if you're on the PK. Look, the Ducks did a great job of wearing out the penalty kill. That first one, I think I was very impressed with because of the poise of the power play. I think both power play units did a heck of a job. The effort was there. The effort was absolutely there. This was one of the better special teams games that I've seen the Ducks play. Well, at least power play. Power play, that was one of the best ones that I've seen in a very, very long time. Movement was good. They just wore them down. They so wore them down. That's a big sign of improvement. That one I liked a lot. Then there was the second one, the second power play, thanks to the brilliance of Troy Terry. And I actually don't have Troy Terry on the bullet points here, but I will talk about Troy Terry for a few seconds. He drew another penalty. I mentioned this very thing on the previous podcast. Those of you everydayers that listen every day, you know that I talked at length about how good Troy Terry is at drawing penalties. Well, he did it again. He drew a big penalty, and that directly resulted in a goal. Pierre Engvall slashed Troy Terry, Terry using that breakout speed, and about a minute later, Troy Terry cashed in on the power play. And guess what? For the second power play in a row, the puck never left the offensive zone. These are big improvements. Granted, the Islanders don't have much of an active stick. Their penalty kill doesn't have a whole lot of movement to it. It's not the best form. I mean, some teams like to utilize that diamond on the PK, and that was not happening. The Islanders got a little bit discombobulated. They just stood around on the second one. They did. And once there was like a loose puck, kind of like one of those, fight for possession, Olen Zellweger, he wasn't exactly tripped up, but he was down on the ice and made the concerted effort to keep the puck, to A, keep the puck in the zone, and B, have the presence of mind to make a pass to Mason McTavish, who was kind of half open along the goal line, and he just zipped it right to Troy Terry. Perfect pass across the crease, and Troy Terry did not miss that opportunity. I loved everything about that play. So that made it 2-0. It was literally a cross ice pass across the crease. Those are the type of passes that you want to see on your power play, and the Ducks are succeeding in that. So I consider that a good sign. Even the third power play the Ducks had, the majority of that was spent on the offensive zone. The third one came in the final period, where Olen Zellweger drew a penalty. Now, granted, on that one, the Ducks did not cash in, but they had a couple of pretty solid shot attempts. They kept the puck in the offensive zone. Again, they didn't keep it the entire time, but for the majority of the time, they kept it in the offensive zone. But there was one little, puck out, so the defense was able to reset. But at least the Ducks didn't allow any shorthanded chances, not even anything close to that. So credit the Ducks power play for having the wherewithal to break down a sorry penalty kill and to break down the defense. Brilliantly done by the Ducks. This is something that they needed. These are all good signs. And I mentioned the good signs, so I'll say the good signs again. Better puck movement, better passing, a little bit better hustle, the Olen Zellweger play that I talked about. Overall, good signs that I think the Ducks, they can use this moving forward. There are going to be better PK teams that they're going to be playing coming up, but they can at least look at the tape and they could say, this is how to run a power play. This is a power play done right. As long as you keep it a little bit simple and as long as you utilize these steps, you are going to be successful on the power play. So I'm hoping that the coaching staff takes a big notice on that. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission. We're going to talk more in depth about that big victory at Long Island at UBS Arena. We'll get to that on the other side. And now a brief word from PrizePicks. And folks, PrizePicks is easily the best daily fantasy hockey site out there. They've got daily fantasy hockey, daily fantasy football, daily fantasy baseball, which is still going on, and daily fantasy basketball. All of those sports can be found on PrizePicks. And you could check out who's going to score a goal for the Ducks. I did mention, could you put something on Troy Terry? I hope you put a good pick on Troy Terry to score a goal in the previous game, because that would be one of your correct picks. Because right now on PrizePicks, you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And I gave you a freebie last episode. I said one of them would be Troy Terry. Guess what? That happened. So you can sign up today on PrizePicks and get this. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you were locked in with Jason Hernandez as we talk about this 3-1 victory against the New York Islanders, who are struggling more than a bit. I even mentioned if there was a game that the Ducks were going to get 2 points, this would be it. And that's exactly what happened. The New York Islanders, as of this recording, they are 6th in the Metro Division, 3-4-2 after this game. They were 3-3-2 going in. The Islanders, as I mentioned, one of the worst penalty kills in the league. Let's jump into the first period. I mentioned that the Ducks scored in the power play. That was actually Leo Carlsson that scored on the power play. Brilliant play by the Ducks all around. It was fine. It was Lukas Dostal versus Sorokin. And the power play looked good. Brock McGinn drew a great penalty. And this was great. This was great. I even said, whoa, baby. So Leo Carlsson got a tip out in front of the net. Frank Vetrano collected the puck from the point and kind of just grazed it towards the net, and Leo Carlsson was there to get the tip in. So that made it 1-0 Anaheim Ducks. As I mentioned, penalty killing looked bad. I got to give big ups to Frank Vetrano. He hustled back towards the blue line to keep the puck in the zone, and as he gathered himself, that's when he snapped it towards the net. So I mentioned before, the puck never left the offensive zone. Frank Vetrano, a big reason for that. So that made it 1-0 Ducks early on. Great signs by the Ducks. Great improvements. They did get outshot 13-9 in the first period, however. Robbie Fabry had a couple of good shots. He had one good shot to his left, and then a juicy rebound attempt that he tried to put back in, but nothing going there. So it remained 1-0 going into the second period. Second period, Ducks got outshot 10-7 in this one. You notice a theme again here, guys. Yeah, the Ducks are getting outshot again, and Lukas Dostal is bailing them out again. But at least Troy Terry drew that penalty, got the power play goal, as I mentioned. Just to kind of talk about that goal again for a hot minute, I mentioned the pass across the crease, and I mentioned the hustle by Olen Zellweger to keep the puck in the zone. I didn't mention all the other guys on that power play. I mentioned McTavish. Leo Carlsson also did a good job of maintaining possession, and I also got to give props to Frank Vetrano, who also did a good job of making those great passes. I think it was Vetrano that had one cross-ice pass on that particular power play. That one didn't cash in, but later on, the snapshot from Troy Terry did cash in. So it seemed like all 5 of those guys on the penalty or on the power play did their jobs perfectly in order to get the best shots on goal. So that was kind of the brilliance of the power play in general. So that made it 2-0 Anaheim Ducks. And then it really became the Lukas Dostal show in that third period. They were outshot 18-6, which means shots on goal, when it was all said and done, was a staggering 41-22. That third period, New York went on the power play, their fourth one, And Matty Barzal finally cashed in on the power play. That one had pretty solid movement as well. That one, yeah, just a great goal from a decent enough angle. Matty B got a perfect cross ice pass from Bo Horvat, and Matty Barzal down on one knee just nailed it. Perfect pass, perfect shot. Not much you can do about that. 2-1 Anaheim Ducks. The Isles would continue to pepper Lukas Dostal until we got to an empty net situation, and Frank Vatrano finally got off the schneid, his first one of the season. Congratulations, Frankie. You did it. You scored a goal. Empty netter that sealed the deal for the Anaheim Ducks as they were victorious 3-1 against the New York Islanders. Shots on goal, 41-22 in favor of the Islanders, which means that Lukas Dostal got 40 saves. We'll talk about Lukas Dostal more on the third part of this podcast. Ducks out hit him. They got more blocked shots. Yeah, it was just one of those games for Dostal where he had to be that guy. He had to be. As I mentioned, outshot 41-22 is bad enough, but when you go even further into the numbers, the shot attempts were, oh God, I'm afraid to say this, 91-50. The shot attempts in favor of the Islanders were 91-50. The high danger chances were 16-6 in favor of the New York Islanders. Let me repeat that. High danger chances, 16-6. Yeah, I'm not liking that number either. But hey, Dostal did what he had to do. He got big save after big save after big save. He was exceptional. He was brilliant again, playing way over his head, playing some of the best goaltending hockey that you're probably ever going to see, to be honest. All right, after this second intermission, we're going to really go a little more in-depth on Lukas Dostal's brilliance. And by the way, he's now leading the league in one of the main goaltending categories. Which one? Stay locked in and find out. And now a brief word from FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. And we are opening up the basketball season. The hockey season has started. So get ready to take on all the action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in one place. Let's say you feel something in the middle of a game. Check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It is the World Series still, Dodgers-Yankees. Could the Dodgers win in 5 games in the Bronx? FanDuel has those lines. The Dodgers are still favored to win it all. Freddie Freeman still favored to win the World Series MVP. So head to FanDuel right now and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks. Once again, you're locked in with Jason Hernandez. We're approaching 1,000 episodes pretty soon. That should be probably by the end of the year. I'm going to try to time it end of the year, but we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we've got to talk about Lukas Dostal, the complete and utter brilliance of Lukas Dostal, who now leads the league in save percentage. Yes, you heard that right. Lukas Dostal is leading the league, all goalies, with a whopping .943 save percentage. A goals against of 2 is not quite the top in the league, but it is up there. The only goalies better than him that have played at least 4 games, Freddie Anderson, 1.48, Ilya Sorokin of the Islanders, 1.80, Jake Ottinger, 1.84, and there's Lukas Dostal, 4th in the league at 2 even. Very solid. The .943, I think, is the most solid stat out of all of them. That save percentage is insanely high for Lukas Dostal. So we got to give him all the props in the world. Yeah, he is that guy. He's absolutely that guy right now. I did mention all the high danger chances that the Ducks saw this past game, and there was a lot. There was a lot of them. Lukas Dostal has now seen 64 high danger shots and has saved 56 of them. He did not allow a high danger goal this past game. So his high danger save percentage is now getting way up there. It's an 875 high danger save percentage. Again, Jake Ottinger, one of the few that are better, Alex Lyon, Freddie Anderson, names that I've mentioned before. Lukas Dostal is up there. He is up there amongst the elite, up there amongst the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. That is the kind of thing you want to see from your goaltender night in and night out. As long as your goalie can give you a chance, I mean a legit chance, then you're probably going to win most, if not all, games. His game score was a whopping 2.69. The expected goals against was 3.69. Nice. And he only allowed one goal. So it was expected to be about a 4-2 or 4-3 game in favor of the Islanders. So Dostal earned the Ducks that win. He was freaking brilliant. I mean, what more can I say about Lukas Dostal that I have not said already? He is the number one goaltender for the Anaheim Ducks. And I think this makes it a little bit easier for John Gibson in the sense that he doesn't have to come back right away. I think if Dostal had a poor start to the season, then Gibby might be more apt to try to come back a little bit sooner. Right now, he is on about week 4, or no, he's approaching week 5 now that I think about it, because John Gibson went out with that emergency appendectomy before the season began. And I just kind of have to look at when that happened, because I'm kind of mixing up my days here. So this was September 26th. So that was 5 weeks ago. So I was right on that. So it's now been 5 weeks. He was supposed to be out 3 to 6 weeks. We're now approaching week 6 on the latter end of the recovery table. Because of Dostal's brilliance, John Gibson, even though he's with the Ducks on this trip, he can kind of relax a little bit more. He can take it easy and not feel compelled, not feel rushed to come back. And that's probably better in the long term for John Gibson, because you always want that fresh goalie to just come back and begin to try to dominate again. I don't know if Gibby can get Dostal type numbers right away, but it's certainly a better option than James Reimer, who has had a couple of poor performances. In fact, James hasn't got a win. He's at 2 performances that are leaving a little bit to be desired, especially the last performance that he had on the back end of a back-to-back. He did not look good. So I think if Gibby comes back sooner rather than later, this would be nothing but a good thing for the Anaheim Ducks, because they do have the game at Pittsburgh on Halloween night, and they have a few days off. Then they play the Blackhawks on Dia de los Muertos night. But looking ahead, the Ducks have a long homestand, and they have a couple of games where there's 1 day off. So they could probably trot out Dostal for most of those games, but you don't want to overuse him. You want to use your backup. So I could see Gibby coming back at some point during this upcoming homestand, which is Chicago, Vancouver, Minnesota, Columbus, Vegas, Dallas. Somewhere in that 6-game homestand, I'm predicting that's when John Gibson is going to make his season debut. I don't know if he's going to get 30, 35 starts. So, I mean, I still said 45 plus games, but the more I watch Lukas Dostal, the more that 55 plus from Emily, that's looking a little more accurate. So I'm actually planning on having her on either next week or the following week to kind of give an update on Lukas Dostal, slight update on our predictions so far. So that's what will be coming up soonish. All right. I think that's going to do it for this podcast because, again, Lukas Dostal, just brilliant, brilliant play. Cannot wait to see what he does on. It's looking like he's going to start again at Pittsburgh because the Ducks do have a day off. And during this upcoming homestand of 6 games, I predict that Dostal will get 4 starts. That's what I'm going to predict. 4 out of 6 games. And I predict that John Gibson will be back next week. That's what I'm kind of hedging on. All right. Once again, thank you all so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget that this podcast is free and available across all platforms. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Hopefully it turns rainbow. This podcast, once again, free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. We are ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube. We're also on SiriusXM. So look for Locked On Ducks on the SiriusXM app. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. You could follow me on Twitter X. There it is, at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter X is at LO_Ducks. And once again, thank you all so much for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there. Please be kind to one another. Please be kind to yourselves. Ducks fly together. See you in New York, guys. Yeah, I'm still here for now, but we'll see you in New York.